I honestly believe that 90% of marketing emails are trash because what most people do when they write emails is they just look at like big companies. When a $1 billion company is writing emails, they're extremely conservative because they have so many investors and like high level people that don't have experience in internet marketing. They're just trying to protect the valuation of that company. If you're not at that level, you can absolutely take more risks. And when I say risk, it's not even like that big of a risk. It's just like you're writing a story. I call it the $200 million email system because literally everything I'm talking about here is how we've generated that number for our clients over the last 5 years. This is some of our team in the photo, and the subtitle is How to Find Hundreds of Book Calls and Sales on Your Email List with One Simple Formula. So I would imagine most of you are probably booking calls, or do half of you maybe like just sell a product straight up? Just curious if you could type in the chat, just say call or direct sale. That'll help me cater it even more. Okay, calls. Perfect.
Calls, both calls.
Okay, awesome. So what do we do? This is the zoomed in background over there, but we run the email lists of major online brands, coaches, and corporations. So there's three main components to what we do. Sometimes we call it email list management, but we write and send fresh daily emails. We build email automation workflows. So like when somebody joins your list, what do they get? What happens? Like not just emails, but like SMS and like all the other things that happen around that. And then most importantly, deliverability, right? So I'm sure with AIpreneur, you guys are probably pretty good at number one, right? Writing fresh daily emails. But the next two, people don't always talk about a lot. So I'm going to talk about those things today. Plus, I'm going to talk about some things that you could even plug in when you're writing emails, even if it's with AI to make them even more personalized, or just like strategies that you could prompt, right? So a little bit more of what you'll learn, how to grow your email list faster, because some of you, I see you have smaller lists, which is totally fine, but why not grow it faster? If you've ever talked to people before, like, normal people with a normal job, they seem to hate emails. But I'm going to show you why they hate that, and I'm going to show you how to make them love your emails and kind of change that mental framework. Simple automations that can generate an extra book call or sale every day if you do it right. How to make sure Google favors your emails in 2025 because deliverability has gotten very difficult the last 2 years. Where to find free subscribers. I kind of mentioned that up above, but I have a really cool case study about that that I wanted to share too. And then just some other creative ideas from one of our very best ever case studies that I wanted to share. So does anybody think email is dead? I'm just curious. Just type a yes in the chat. This is totally okay if you believe this. Not dead. All right. 50-50. Okay. In China, it doesn't work. I'm assuming that's for a different reason, but who knows? So if you're thinking no, or you're like, oh, I'm 50-50, I'm gonna challenge your beliefs today, okay? So here is the formula. If you take a picture of one thing today or a screenshot, take this slide. I'm going to explain it here in a second. So, there's four things here that really make a difference. Your list size, your engagement, your frequency, and then your AOV or your LTV. So why is that important? Because it's just math. So all we are really doing is we're multiplying these things. So let's say, for example, if your list size is 100 people, and you get 10% open rates. That's 10 people opening every email. And maybe you only send once a week. So that's 10 people opening per week. And you sell a product that's $100. So if you like multiply all those things out, you're not going to make very much money. But if you increase any of those things, like if you increase your list size to 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, 100,000, you have exponentially higher chances to make sales on any given day. If you have higher open rates, you have higher chances. If you send more emails, you have higher chances. If you sell a more expensive product or have better upsells, you have higher chances. Like it's just math. And people take email and they get all confused by it. But like if you increase any one of those four things, ideally all of them, you're gonna make a lot more money. And it's literally just math. So here's this an image if you wanted to Well, I made it with AI and didn't quite follow along, so maybe Athena could help me make it better. But um, that's the gist of it. Anyway, this is one of our case studies where we increased all of those things for a client, just to show you. And over a 2 month span, they went from 54K a month with their email list to 179. So they added over six figures just by doing those things because it's just math. Um, Here's a bunch of people. Athena kind of mentioned them a moment ago. Um, so let's talk about the first one here, list size. So a lot of people, they run ads, but they don't think about all the different platforms that you can run ads on. And I'm not here to talk about ads today. I just want to like open your mind to the fact that there are way more platforms than Meta. And there's all these advertorials and little placements you can do on different sites. You can acquire smaller sites in your niche that have a little bit of traffic to them. I do that all the time. I roll up little softwares and I make them better, and then there's traffic on them and it works. So just like keep in mind there might be things in your niche or even like Reddit posts. I know people that will answer questions and they have like a high status, they get a lot of answers on there, and then they drive traffic to their site. There's like all kinds of things you can do. Cross promos, so if you go to like events, for example, or just people that you know on the internet, people that are in the Zoom room right now, that if they do anything similar to you, there's something very easy that you can do. So what you can say to them is like, hey, I see you do something similar to me. What if I send an email about you to my list, and you send an email about me to your list, and you just trade? So like me and Athena, we did that in like what, last week. So we traded a lot of leads, we helped a lot of people back and forth, and you don't have to like pay upfront like you do with Facebook, right? You're like, as soon as you spend that money, it's spent. But usually this is commission, or sometimes if you're starting out, you can just trade the swap for the swap and there's like no commission. So it's very easy to grow your list that way. And if you haven't done it yet, highly recommend you do that because it's like the simplest way to start, especially if your list is small. You could literally get hundreds of new people in one day just by doing that. Um, Identity resolution. If you're not familiar with that, I'm not going to go into all the details and technicalities of it right now, but basically, if you just Google identity resolution, and we have a service like this too, but it will increase your opt-in rate on your forms because if people don't complete the entire form, it can still get their email address and add them in. And it works in the United States. So that's a pretty good option there as well. Voomly or eBoov. I don't know if any of you run video or VSL funnels, but there's this really cool thing where you're watching a video and then right before the best part, and they're like, I'm going to show you how to make $1 zillion in a day. And then boom, it's like, hey, before you learn this, you have to put in your name and email. So it like incentivizes people because you're about to drop the best part. Now, whatever that is for you, I gave a crazy example, but whatever the best hook is in your video, ideally within the first couple of minutes, and you're about to reveal it, that's where you want to put it. So I don't own those softwares, but they have been very helpful for me and some clients on different funnels, so I'd recommend them. Also, exit pops are something that a lot of people know about, but what they do wrong with those is they put the same hook on the exit pop, which means it didn't work on the first page. And the person's exiting, why are you going to tell them the same thing? You should tell them something different. So if you can see behind the exit pop on the original page, this is one of our headlines that works really, really well. Half your subscribers aren't seeing your emails and therefore can't buy from you. And then underneath it, there's a little bit of extra info, but that's like the main part. So if that doesn't work, then the exit pop says something completely different, talks about getting a demo of our software, which is kind of implied before people hit this page, but it hits them with a different angle. Okay. Um, Also, here's something I want to talk about too. I'll get more to it later, but this is like the big case study I talked about with growing your list. So if any of you do have a big list, I know that one of you said you have like 18,000 people that are kind of dead. So there's two portions to every list, right? There's like the active part, so people that have opened in the last like, 90 days roughly. Everybody sets the day number a little bit differently, but I just use 90, so that's what I'll say. Um, And then you have an inactive portion, which is people who haven't opened an email in 90 days or more. So if you have a deliverability problem and you fix it, which is what we'll talk about later, you can just send an email to the people that are inactive, assuming they didn't unsubscribe. There's a way to find out, but basically, like people who fell off your list for inactivity, not for unsubscribing. So the reason they probably went inactive is because they weren't seeing your emails because you're in the promotions tab or spam folder or something like that. So when you fix that problem and you send out an email to them, and I'll give you the template later too, because it really crushes, you can recover like thousands of those people that you thought were lost. And let's say your average cost per lead is like $3. Well, in this case, this guy got back 9,000 leads. So he got the equivalent of 27 grand in leads, not dollars, because he hasn't sold anything yet, but leads. How much could that turn into? I don't know. But at the end of the day, 9,000 leads, like I'd love to add 9,000 today. Now he had a big list, but numbers going to be different for everybody, but everybody wants to grow their list. Um, Another quick tip here too, if you notice, right here, there's a little Russell Brunson trick. When you're asking for somebody's email, ask for their best email, not just their email. You can also say things like PDF or whatever it is will be emailed to you immediately. So then it's implying we're going to email this to you, like make sure it's a good email. And then you just want to make sure that there's every little like implication that they should be putting in a real email instead of just like half-assing the email form. Like make them take it seriously and just add in little things like that and make them feel like, if I don't put in my best email, I may not actually get what I'm trying to get. And then here's another cool thing. I used to do this manually, but I think GHL does it automatically now if you check the box. But like a lot of people will have an opt-in form similar to this one. And then if the person doesn't finish it, you don't actually collect the lead. So this is a multi-step form here, right? So if somebody clicks next, there's the next, page here and they fill out this information, they keep hitting next. But if they just finish the first page, I still collect their email because I submit the form and add it to my list. Like I said, I think GHL does that automatically now. But just make sure you're doing that because I see so many websites where they have a long form. The first couple questions are like name and email, and then they don't capture the lead. They wait until the person fills out the entire form, which is silly because those are like people that are very interested. It's just they got busy and they forgot to fill out the rest. So as far as how many more leads you can collect each month, just think about that in your head for a minute using these strategies. Like, what do you think that would be? Just type in the chat. Do you think you could get 100 more leads per month? Do you think you could get 1,000? Like, what do you think? Just type it in the chat and we'll see the answers here. 1,000, 250, 500, 200,000. Okay, perfect. All right, cool. Glad that was helpful. I know I'm here to talk about email, but if you don't have anybody to email, there's no point, right? So I'm just trying to help. So that's number one. That just helped you increase your list size. So if you do nothing else, you're still better off than you were 10 minutes ago before we talked about this. So now let's talk about engagement. So just curious as well, I've been asking this to people lately. When you look at your email sends, do you look more at the open rate or the click rate? Just type open or click in the chat. I'm just curious. This is a selfish question. Open, click, both, click. I'm seeing click more nowadays. That's the hypothesis now, is that people are looking more at clicks because open rates a little less reliable than they used to be with Apple iOS updates and things. But okay. Now here's the thing. A lot of people say they don't like emails because the truth is, no matter how much Gary Vee uses the value word, your emails don't actually give value. I'm going to give you a quick example of this right here. Also, the other reason is because a lot of times they think you're talking about cold email, which is like when you get an email from somebody who you have no clue who they are, and they just scraped your information off of one of those websites. Like that's the other reason. So that's not what we do here. We work with opt-ins. So I know people who are good at cold email, but that's not us. Okay, so let's talk about the four tiers of value, okay? Because everybody kind of gets that wrong and they think value is just like giving like tips and advice and like three ways to blah blah blah. But the truth is that's very boring these days. Like we live in a world of social media where people's attention span is like 5 seconds, and if you're not spinning on your head upside down and playing guitar at the same time, like you know what I mean? Like entertainment is harder to capture people now than it was back then, right? It's always getting harder. So entertainment can be many different things. Um, but here's some things to keep in mind when you're thinking about like, okay, what would entertain my audience? Should be something simple, something relatable, could be something funny, it could be something contrarian that goes against the grain of everything that they've heard before. Could be shocking, could be a meme, it could be scary, it could be sad, it could be risky, it could be emotional, you can tell a story. And these are things that, again, if you're using AI to write, like make sure you tell it to like be on edge and like write about things that are a little bit risky and things that aren't boring and bland like most people talk about, okay? We'll give some examples in a minute. So most of the time, you need to have some kind of entertainment in your emails. Otherwise, people are going to unsubscribe because it's boring. Now, here's another thing. So once you've kind of entertained people a bit, and of course, the entertainment is within your niche, within your industry, right? So it's not just like a random meme that has nothing to do with what you do. So after you've kind of educated people a little bit within the entertainment, right? They're learning a little bit about you and what you do through entertainment. Then you start talking about big ideas. So like, why have they always failed? And why is this time going to be different? And I'm not saying that everybody on your list is a complete failure and their mom doesn't love them. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is everybody has a problem to solve. Otherwise, they would not be on your list. Even if you sell t-shirts, there's a problem. The problem is I don't have a t-shirt that expresses how I want to express myself to the world. So therefore, I need to buy your shirt that has your word or logo or concept on it because it makes me feel better. It's true. That's a problem. Very micro first world problem, but still a problem, right? But I'm sure all of you, since most of you are booking calls, it's a bigger problem, right? They have some problem in their life. So why have they always failed to solve that problem? And why is this time going to be different? Okay? Just think about that because that's a copywriting mechanism, literally called the mechanism of the problem and the mechanism of the solution. So for example, I don't do coaching anymore, but when I did, I my whole hook was like, hey, the reason you're not getting clients as a copywriter is because there are thousands of other copywriters in the world, and now there's AI. You can't compete with that. But if you learn deliverability and workflows and automations, there are very few people that know that. And when you go to a client and you say you know all those things, you sound so much smarter and better, and you're just so much more talented than the people who just do copywriting. So that's why it's going to be different this time. So that was like the big idea. Okay. So think about what that is for you. Okay. Now, after you talk about the big idea, that's when you can talk about like tips, right? Because most of the time you join somebody's list and they just talk about tips right away, and you're like, wait a second, I'm not there yet. You need like something that's simpler to start, and then the big idea that kind of sells you on, okay, I like this person or I like this business. And then you start giving more tips and they're like, more serious, right? As you go down this funnel. So that's where you can do webinars, lives, reports, nitty gritty emails, things like that. And then you can sell. I'm not saying that you can't sell in any of these. It's great to sell. Just don't make it like the main point because you'd be surprised how many email lists we look at. So we close a client, we go in, we look at their list, and they're not doing the first two. It's just like you opt in, they give you a couple tips, and then they sell you something. And it's like literally the tip email is like three tips. There's nothing else. There's no personality. There's nothing that made me feel a certain way. And then they send emails that are just like, hey, 25% off, or some kind of pitch. And like they didn't build the bond. So this is something that you could probably even screenshot and like, write a quick paragraph long summary, feed it to AI, and now all your emails are going to be a lot better because you're reminding it in your prompts. Hey, like this is how we get people to know, like, and trust us before they buy from us. Okay. Um, so here's another thing to remember too, why this is so important, because some of you are probably like, hey, Troy, like I get it, but like, I'm busy. I just like to get straight to the point. Well, guess what? You are not your customer. Okay. Most entrepreneurs, like you guys, are too advanced doing what you do. You've been doing it so long, right? Like that's why you feel that you're busy and that you don't want to like go back to the beginning with all these little like entertainment pieces and memes because you've forgotten what it's like to be a beginner, right? So think about something you're new at that does not have to do with your business. So, for example, let's say you just started picking up the guitar. So you're great at business, but at guitar, you're very self-conscious. You don't really know what you're doing. You're shy to play in front of people. You're shy to tell people that you play because they're gonna be like, "Oh, what songs do you know?" And you're gonna be like, "Iron Man," like kind of. And like that's kind of how your customers feel about like your niche, right? So like that's how they feel, right? So just keep that in mind. You could also view customers as your younger self. So like back when you were not as advanced, it's kind of where they are today, and they need some of that nurturing. And you could also think about the emotional side of like when you were like, hey, I'm going all in on this. I'm going to do it. I'm super motivated. I'm going to make 10K a month. I'm going to, whatever the goal was. That's kind of where they're at right now. Okay. And there's a lot of emotionally like charged feelings that come with that, right? Okay. Quick, funny example. If you sell anything that's kind of like B2B or like business in some way, right? Or even if you resell AIpreneur, you probably think that the average entrepreneur, like person that you deal with, average person on your email list kind of looks like this guy, right? He's responsible. He's got glasses, middle-aged, got a nice Mac behind him. But honestly, not everybody on your list, but some of the people are kind of like your crazy Uber driver. Okay. You never know because if you've ever been in the back of an Uber and they started talking to you about like crypto or AI or whatever, like those people are on your list too. And of course, this picture is a little exaggerated, but it goes to show you've got serious people, you've got people just getting into it, you've got everything in between. So you have to think like you know how to talk to that first guy, but what's going to make this guy know, like, and trust you if he's not ready at the level of that last guy? Okay. So one way you can do that too is you can observe people online, like in the areas where they hang out. And this is all public. Okay. So it's a couple, well, more than a couple. There's a lot of ways to do this, but you could send an email to your list that's just like, hey, first name, what's your biggest problem with blank? Reply and let me know. It's literally it. Or what's your biggest question about blank? Reply and let me know. And you'd be surprised. Some people will keep it very short and simple. Some people will tell you their life story. And you can take all those things and you can feed them back to your prompt. And now whatever you're writing about is going to be like it's going to hit home harder because you know your audience and you've studied your audience. Okay. Amazon reviews. It's another great one. Again, not many of you sell physical product, but even if you don't, you can still go look at a product in your niche and see what people think about certain things. Think about the problems that they have based on their reviews. You can look at just in general what people are using, because then if you're talking about a product that they love, even if you're not selling a physical product, you can like talk about that as one of your topics, right? So for example, if I use guitar again, if I'm teaching a course about how to play guitar, at some point I should probably talk about my favorite guitars and like the good ones, the bad ones, etc., because that's entertainment, right? So that's how you would use that if you don't sell a physical product. You can talk about things that are annoying, and you can talk about techniques that kind of solve that, right? Um, and then there's forums and Reddit. A lot of times, as you guys probably know, Reddit has a lot of people crying and complaining and moaning and all those things. But there is some truth to what they're complaining about, right? Otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. So if you can think of a way to make those type of people happy, you have a phenomenal business. If you can please somebody who's on Reddit who's like absolutely miserable and you have such a great business that even those people would be happy, that's a great like piece of research to know. Memes, I already talked about this one. They exist because they're true. So if somebody creates a meme and it goes viral, it means a lot of people feel that way and they resonate with that. So you should probably use it in your marketing as well. Um, okay, so if I were to consolidate this into 5 types of emails, say emotional stories, personal emails, so ones that come off very personally. It could be an experience that happened to you, or it could be something very, very simple. I'll give an example of this later. Um, so it could be like emotional or it could be transactional. I'll show both, okay? Um, News events. So the triggering news events does not mean what the president said. It doesn't mean COVID. It doesn't mean this and that. It could be, but it means within your niche. So again, if I give the guitar example, if you are in the guitar world right now, in the music world, if you're not talking about the legacy of Ozzy Osbourne, you're missing out. Okay. And it doesn't have to be somebody that high profile. It could be anything that's happening in the news in your industry. You need to be talking about it. Oh, and make sure that if you're using AI, that you check the box that it's gonna search the internet for like up to date things, so you don't miss out on that kind of thing. Contrarian, again, if you just say the same thing that your competitors say and you copy, I'm not saying you guys are copiers, but like at some point we all look over, what's my competitor doing over there? If you say the same thing as them, nobody's going to pay attention to you, okay? You got to sometimes go against the grain and you got to talk about things that are different. You have to dare to fail, dare to look a little bit weird, okay? Because if you just copy what somebody else is doing, they're already ahead of you, and there's no way that you can really surpass them unless you come across some amazing discovery that they don't have, which is unique and it's your own, it's contrarian, okay? Curiosity, people love curiosity, right? We'll give examples of that later, but people can't get enough of that, okay? Um, so anyway, I'm gonna go over some quick examples here because I honestly believe that 90% of marketing emails are trash because they don't do all this stuff. Because when most people do when they write emails, especially if they don't have a coaching like group or mastermind like this, is they just look at like big companies. So they'll look at an email and be like, oh, I'm on Target's email list or Walmart or whatever, like major store, Nike, or. And they're like, their emails are very plain. Why don't I just copy them and play it safe? But they don't realize like when a $1 billion company is writing emails, they're extremely conservative because they have so many investors and like high level people that don't have experience in internet marketing. They're just trying to protect the valuation of that company. So they play it super safe. If you're not at that level, you can absolutely take more risks. And when I say risk, it's not even like that big of a risk. It's just like you're writing a story. It's not that risky, but the way they see it is, they're managing a lot of money, so they get scared. So personally, I think that's why a lot of emails suck. But I'm gonna show you some examples of before emails and how you could easily change those. So this first one here, I found in my inbox one day. It was called "Must Know Tips for Dogs on Hot Days." So here we go, a tips email. Hello, who turned on the heat? If you're blinded by the sun and your skin sizzles when you step out, imagine how it feels for your dog. I don't even want to keep reading, to be honest. This is like the most cookie cutter thing I've ever seen in my life. So I got this email and I was like, how could I make this more emotional? And what could I use to rewrite this email where it actually motivates people to click the link, watch the video, and I'm guessing there's something for sale at the end of the video, right? Or it's to build a relationship with the person. And then maybe tomorrow they'll sell something. So I was like, okay, so I looked on Reddit for a few minutes and I found a story that might actually motivate somebody. Now, this is not a finished email, you'd have to finish it, but I found this thing on Reddit. And you could rewrite it, and the potential subject line is RIP Metro. And it basically talks about neighbor took his 2 labs for a walk in a sunny mid-afternoon day. It was in the 90s outside. Got back to his house and saw his wife and neighbor in the driveway with the neighbor's dog and was laying down, panting, was immobile, couldn't get up, it couldn't drink water. And he knew that the neighbor took his dogs on a walk every morning as well. So he was like, oh, this must be heat stroke, and ran inside to get a cold towel. But it was too late. They tried to save the dog for 45 minutes and Metro died. And in the last couple paragraphs there, it ends on a more inspirational note about you should care for your dog. You should pay attention to those things, right? So if you're trying to get somebody's attention, it's it's not about telling them 3 tips for dogs on hot days. If you want to motivate somebody to help their dog on a hot day, you have to show them like the actual like world, the real world, what can happen. Okay. And again, at the end, you can always make it positive. Okay. Now here's another example. 3 tips, or sorry, 7 tips for a healthier you, essentially, right? So another tips email. Very boring, stock image, like 2 sentences underneath it. Click here now. They didn't even change the button. But so here's an email that I wrote that's similar when I was promoting one of my wife's courses a couple of years ago. So it's called I Felt Fat and Out of Shape. A few months ago, I looked at a photo that was taken of me and my jaw dropped. The face looked pudgy and my shirt felt tight. I realized I was gaining weight. Thoughts started to race through my head. Felt guilty that I was a former college athlete turned pudgy entrepreneur. Felt wrong that sometimes I worked for so many hours straight that I skipped breakfast and lunch. Felt like I was betraying myself constantly saying that I'd work out tomorrow. So I know some of you can relate to that instantly, okay? It's much better than 7 healthy food swaps for a healthier you, okay? Some of you probably felt that as I read it. Andrew asked, do you find longer emails and lots of writing are more effective? It's not so much about the length. I'm just not reading the whole thing because I'm not here to you know, read books like Reading Rainbow or anything like that back in the day. I'm just here to like share the concept. But yeah, this email is probably I think this email is probably a couple more pages. I just put the first 2, but that doesn't mean that they have to be long. It doesn't mean they have to be short. If you've heard the quote, can't remember exactly what it is, but it's like keep it simple but no simpler. It's like make it as long as it needs to be to get the point across. Like don't fill in a bunch of fluff, right? But make sure that you're not leaving anything out. Because a lot of people are like, oh, well, if the email's long, nobody's gonna read it. And it's like, well, an email is really just written line by line. If the first line's good, they read the second line. If the second line's good, they read the third line. If the third line's good, they read the fourth line. But if you have a couple lines of fluff somewhere, that's where you lose people. Okay. And just understand that like it's okay to have short emails sometimes where maybe they click a link and they watch a video instead of reading and then clicking a link to buy something, for example. But just understand like the shorter emails, they'll get more clicks. The clicks will be a little less qualified than if you write a long email and they click, you'll get less clicks, but they'll be more qualified. So that's just kind of how I do it. Uh, a contrarian example, one time for one of my BizOp clients, I took an email, an angry email that they received from somebody on their email list, which, by the way, don't let those people tell you how to run your business. There's a lot of people that will get an email that says, like this subject line up here, stop effing emailing me. People will literally stop emailing their list because someone told them to, which is the wildest thing to me that you're going to let an angry person in their mom's basement tell you how to run your business. But anyway, besides the point, I use that as a subject line because I thought it was great. And it's like, stop emailing me, you're a scammer. That's all it said. I used to get upset about nasty messages like this. It made me wonder if I was actually helping people or if I was just another guru making money on the internet. But then I started to look through some other emails I've received, people telling me that the info I shared with them has changed their lives, allowed them to quit their job, helped them move to a nicer city, put their kids in a better school, and give them back the family time they're missing out on while at work. How about that turnaround? Okay. Just remember, like, for every person who leaves you a nasty reply, there are so many more who like to read your emails, even if they don't reply. Because the truth is about the world, the people that are the most miserable like to voice themselves the most and just complain online. Sometimes they're having a bad day. So they just say something like that, but don't think that everybody thinks that because it's not true. Um, and you can, take the angry people and turn them into content, right? So the crazy thing to me too is like everybody thinks that on social media you need to post 10 times a day, but email you can only send once a week. It's the same thing, it's just on a different channel. Okay. So don't listen to the people that are like, oh, you're being annoying if you send more than a few times a week. Okay. Here's a curiosity one. It's called Sell a Kidney to Make 10K. And the reason it's curious is because like we've all kind of heard, the concept of selling your kidney usually as a joke, but not many people talk about that, right? Um, so if you could sell a kidney and make 10K, that's what this email is saying. Would you do it? We wouldn't do it, that's for sure. But someone on Reddit recently posted about how dang hard it is to make money online that he jokingly, we hope, said he was considering selling a kidney instead. We Googled it and you can legally sell one for 10K. But if you want to keep all your vital organs and learn how to make money in a different way, click this link. So it's funny. And the right type of person is like, okay, that's good. I'll click the link. But again, there's going to be some Karens on your email list. So you'll be like, blah, 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 blah. And then they reply with the mean email. But that's not who you should listen to. You should listen to the people that read every day. And sometimes, again, they don't reply, but the way you listen is you look at the clicks, you look at the bookings, you look at the sales, because the credit card speaks louder than everything else. Secondarily, a book call speaks louder than everything below that. So just pay attention to the people that are taking the actions that you want them to take. Okay. Here's a personal touch example. So you could be very emotional, like we talked about earlier, or you could be very transactional as long as it makes sense. Okay. So, like, let's say somebody ordered a physical product, and you can think of all types of ways, even if you don't sell a physical product. It's just an example. Um, if somebody orders from you, send them an email that says RE shipping. And it's like, hey, name, Jess from our warehouse said your order's getting ready to ship, which reminds me, I forgot to ask you, would you like us to throw in an extra bottle or two at a discount? If so, just click the link below and use the code new customer 10 to save 10%. And we'll give you free shipping because we're putting it in the same box. Okay. So a lot of times too, if you're selling a course or a coaching program, if somebody buys from you, whether it's in a low ticket funnel or if it's really anywhere, you can think of a reason to email them to get them on a call or to send them to something else or really anything like that. Okay. Just be thinking about that. This one I'm not going to read the whole thing because I want to go into the next section here, but my best email ever had nothing to do with business. I wrote about the day my grandfather died. There were elements of Christianity that I talked about, and I thought people were going to come after me with pitchforks, but they didn't. And I got like hundreds of replies back when my list was much smaller. They're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Like, me too, similar experience. I just built a bond. I just wrote it to get it off my chest. So sometimes you just have to vent, and that's that. And sometimes you can include a cool picture too. Um, Another time somebody tried to steal one of my offers. So I booked a call on their calendar and recorded it. They did not know it was me until the end. And I posted it on, unfortunately, I posted on Facebook first before YouTube. And I got like thousands of views on Facebook. And I was like, why did I post it on Facebook first? But you live and you learn. But people still talk about this video to this day. Um, and got all kinds of reactions. It's very big. Uh, Lastly, if you're ever out of ideas, just go to Mr. Beast's channel and look at the crazy stuff that he talks about. Because, like, if you just look at some of these video titles, it's insane. And like, this is why he's the most viewed guy on YouTube. So if you can just like even do it 10% as well as he does in the way that you write and talk or post content, like you're going to do great. Okay. And I make weird notes in my phone too. Anytime I have an idea, I write it down, no matter how dumb it is, because it's an idea for later. Okay. And then you could even, plug all that into AI as well. Also, here's one thing I talked about before, about like pre-prompting, as I like to call it. And I know that AIpreneur has, it's cool because you can like save things that you don't have to retype every time. But it's really, really good to be able to like put that content and examples in there beforehand. So then it has context, right? So you guys have that taken care of. But there's one question that I really like to ask it when writing is ask it what you forgot to tell it. Say like, hey, I gave you a bunch of information. What else do you need to know to be my ghostwriter or my copywriter or whatever? Just ask it that. And you're going to get all the things you didn't think of. Then you give it the answers and boom, now it's even better. Um, yeah, and then I just kind of like answer all the questions back. But yeah, project knowledge, you guys know about that. Last thing here is these are 7 things that you can try to put in every email. You're usually not going to be able to do all 7 in one email, but try. And again, you can tell this in the prompt. You can say it, and it makes it better, right? So just giving it clear direction. There's also something cool here too. A lot of people ask me about this. I have a GIF when I send an email. So like instead of a faceless picture or the letter D or whatever. It's actually like it flashes between my face and my logo. It's just a simple GIF. And then I changed it in my like Google, profile picture, and it'll show up in people's inboxes. So this is kind of like an example of how most people's look like. But if you guys are on my email list, you'll see. Now here's another one too. You can also do blank preview text. So if you look at this inbox, it looks like alphabet soup. It's very crowded. It's a mess. But if you look at this email right here, it kind of visually attracts you a little bit because there is no pre-header. It's just blank and your eyes go to it. So it's like a little hack, but you're like most people don't know about that. I'm surprised. So all you have to do on most ESPs, you just put this little piece of these 6 characters as your preview line, and it will make it blank, which is a nice little thing that most people don't know about. Okay. So who feels like writing or prompting just got a lot easier? Just put a 1 in the chat if so. Also, that's cool. Use this tool to write like Mr. Beast. That's amazing. Okay, cool. Um, But there is one silent engagement killer. You can build a big list, you can write amazing emails, but if nobody sees them, if your email deliverability is not good, it, nobody's going to see it, right? And you did all hard work for nothing. So let's talk about this for a second here. So this is just like the power of it, okay? So this is somebody who worked with had 9% open rate on their average broadcast email. This is a pretty big company, so they were still doing 5K every time they sent out this particular product. But then after we came in, we got up to 29% and they started doing 6,700 based on every single time they sent this product, okay? So that is a massive difference. And you can literally make a huge before and after result, no matter where you are right now, okay? Like there's another one there from 11%, 3.7K to 24%, so literally double up to 8.8K. And it's just crazy like what you can do. Like most people don't realize that like that is a possibility. And I'm not saying you're going to double your open rate. It's very hard to do these days, but you could still make major progress. So here's how you test to see if you even have a problem in the first place, okay? And I can help you with this after if you guys are not sure, but you basically open a new Gmail account. That's for testing purposes. So don't use the one that you always use because that one is influenced by your past opening habits, okay? Then you just send an email to it. So you make a new account, you send an email to it from your ESP, where you send your marketing emails from. All right. And then you just look and see where it lands. It's literally very simple. If it lands in the primary inbox, that's great. Just make sure you test all your emails before you send them, because if one lands there, that doesn't mean they all land there. Okay. So here's another thing that you should check for, especially since about a year and a half ago, Google has got increasingly more strict with this and they're cracking down. Okay. So make sure you do this too. So in that same email, what you can do is you can click these three dots over here in the corner, and then you can hit show original. And what that's going to do, it's going to show you the source code of the email, but above that, they have some, a lot of it is like hard to read unless you know coding, but at the top, it's simpler, okay? And they're going to give you SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. I'm not going to explain what all those letters mean right now, but if they don't all say passing or if they don't show up, it means you need to fix that. Okay. So just make sure you check that because that's like it's a big problem for people these days if they don't do that. You can get your emails could go to spam or they could just straight up get blocked and they get sent and they just land out in the void somewhere, maybe on Mars, who knows? But yeah. Okay. Another really important thing is Google Postmaster. If you go to postmaster.google.com, Google does this crazy thing that they normally don't do, which is share information with you. Most of the time with their algorithms and things, right? They don't talk about that material publicly because it's very secretive and private, but they will literally tell you exactly how you're doing as a sender. They will say, "Hey, you're doing a great job," or "Hey, you're doing a bad job." Okay. So the first thing you want to look at is the spam rate. So you look at your domain and you check and see, and your average should be below 0.3%, which means that out of every 1,000 emails you send, only 3 people can click mark as spam. If it goes higher than that, you're going to have problems. Okay. So if you look at this chart right here, 0.3% would be roughly where my mouse is, like halfway. So as you can see, there was a big spike on this day, but the average is below 0.3. So that's what you want to look for. Domain reputation as well. So this is mostly based on like your past open rates, click rates, making sure you don't have a lot of spam complaints. They will grade you and basically tell you what kind of sender you are. So that's really important to at least be on medium, and you want to get it up to high if you can. And then IP reputation. IP is like if you're on a shared IP, which is probably what most of you are on, so that's like what your ESP, like they pool the senders together. So they take all the good senders and they put them on a high quality one. They take the okay senders and put them on a medium one. The not so good senders, they put you on a low one and they consider kicking you off the platform. So just keep an eye on that to see where you're at. But of course, again, you want to be on medium or high with that. If you're on a private IP, then that's all on you. And it pretty much will be the exact same as your domain reputation, assuming that it's only you on there. And then there is a new little section too where they kind of break it down in an easy way and they give you a green check mark or a red X based on how you're doing all this stuff. So if you're doing great, you have all green check marks. If you're doing bad, you have red X's, and it's not good. Okay. Also, if you go to mailgenius.com, that is another great tool where you can figure out exactly what's wrong and like get recommendations to fix any potential spam problems or things that could turn into spam problems if you don't fix them soon. So that's what I recommend. And again, after you fix these problems, you can re-engage your list. I talked about this earlier. This guy, Marcus here, he got back 9,000 people who he thought were dead and gone, and because they hadn't opened from him in like 90 days or more. So we fixed the problems that we just talked about. And then we were like, you know what? Let's try to recontact those people. So we did, and 9,000 of them opened the email, which means they're now back on his active list instead of the inactive list. Okay. Um, so the template here, I just talked about all this stuff here. The example, I like to do a few things here. So the first thing is for the from name, a lot of times I'll change it up a little bit. So if you normally send from your name, now you can do your company name, or you could do, your business partner's name, or you could do your initials, or you could do something that like you don't want to make it completely random because then it has nothing to do with your business, but you want to make sure it's like a little bit different. Then the subject line, you could say, remember me. And then the email is literally just saying like, hey, name Troy Erickson here, remember me? And then you remind them how they probably know you. So I say I've sent you some emails in the past about how to grow and scale an email list to 6 figures per month. Maybe you've heard of my Unsub Secret, which is a product that I sold, or the anti-promo tab strategy, which is what I was just talking about a minute ago. Anyway, I'm reaching out today because I have another secret ready for you that will help you blank. And then you fill in the blank with some kind of freebie for them. Put the link there and just give them some free value. Okay. And then the last line, be sure to look out for my upcoming messages this week. I've got something special for you. So that keeps them, keeps their eyes peeled, right? So when your next email hits their inbox, they're looking for it. So that is a good example. So again, if you look at all these different formulas here, well, components to one formula, you can kind of see how this all fits together, right? I talked about this earlier, so I'm not going to spend more than a minute on frequency right now, but if if you are in the mindset of like, hey, I'm going to post a lot online on social media, but you're also of the mindset, hey, I'm going to annoy people if I email too much, there's contradiction going on in your head right now. And you need to make sure that this like abundance mindset you have with posting a lot correlates to your email list too. Okay. Don't let people tell you that you email too much because I mean, if you want to make less money, listen to them. If you want to make less impact, listen to them. If you want to have live a better life, don't listen to them. Okay. Um, and that's why I created a comprehensive list of people who tell you to email less often. So here's people who make decisions based on feelings, not data. People who are miserable and reply to your emails to take out their frustrations on you. People who will never buy anything from you anyway, they're just there to yell at you. People who do not own a business, and people who do not own your business. You should make the decisions for your business, not them. And then people who don't make very much money, because that kind of goes along with the first point. If you send a lot, you start to notice a trend. I made more this month. And then you never go back to sending once a week because you make too much money when you send more often. Okay. Um, so with that being said, some fun math here. I kind of talked about this at the beginning, but let's say you have 10,000 people, your engagement, like your open rate is 20%, you send 3 times a week. Okay. That means there's 6,000 people opening every week. It could be the same person, right? So like your frequency. Um, but if we increase our open rates to 30% instead of 20%, and we send 6 times a week instead of three, we didn't just double, we actually tripled our reach. We tripled, okay? By solving a deliverability problem and sending a few more emails per week. We tripled our reach. Imagine if you could triple your ad reach, right? That would be very expensive. But with email, it doesn't take that much more effort, okay? And then if you even increase your list size by 10%, right? From 10,000 to 11,000, then you just add an extra 1,800 opens. So now we went from 6,000 to nearly 20,000 just by following the things that we talked about here, okay? Here's some other ways that you can increase frequency to your hottest leads because those are the people most likely to buy from you. So if you create one simple automation, like this is kind of how people how their brains work when they get an email from you. So they read your email, they click the link, they're thinking about booking a call or buying from you, and then boom, life gets in the way. Their daughter runs in the room. She says, "Daddy, can we play?" Or they have to go to the bathroom, or their wife is like, "Hey, yeah, we got to leave right now." Like it's just real life. Like it happens. It doesn't mean they don't like you. It just means that it happened. Because the truth is, like, we're marketers, and yes, we sell great products and services, but we're not as important as family and like urgent things that happen in people's lives. So just keep that in mind. So if you're not following up with people, you should be, because they probably still want to do business with you. It's just life got in the way. Okay. So here's an example of an email that I send to people if they click a link to book a call and then they don't finish booking their call. Okay. So you can just send them a reminder email that pretty much says like, hey, an hour ago, you clicked a link to book a call with me and my team about managing your email list for you, for example. Unfortunately, you didn't finish booking your call, so I'd highly recommend that you book now, so you only have 3 to 4 spots, which will likely be gone by today or tomorrow. Again, write your emails, create automations on autopilot, and make sure you always hit the primary inbox, aka maximum open rates, clicks, and sales. So, like in this email, we're reminding them of everything. It's like, hey, what they did an hour ago that triggered this email, what the call is about, the benefits. They're going to make more open rate, higher open rates, clicks, sales. Um, yeah, and click here to book the call. So it's very simple. Now, as far as the automation goes, it's usually going to look something like this. Every platform is a little bit different looking, but it's the same concept. Um, if they click a link in your email, let's say it's a book a call link, you can tag them that they clicked the link to your calendar. Then it waits for 1 hour and it checks to see did they book a call or did they not. If they didn't book a call, they get the email. If they did book a call, they get nothing because they're already getting emails about the call they booked. So that's how that works. So a lot of times when you first implement this, you can increase your daily, weekly, monthly, whatever bookings by about 10%. Then you can replicate this and do it not just on your main calendar, but any other calendars you have, any sales pages, videos, funnels, pieces of content that you send to. If somebody clicks a link to check it out, you should follow up with them. It's kind of like setting, right? Like if somebody comes onto your list from ads, yeah, like we all know, like you should have a setter that picks up the phone and calls them or emails them or texts them or whatever. This is very similar, except these leads are even hotter because they didn't just come from ads. They've known you for a while. They're on your list and they just clicked a link to book a call or buy from you and they didn't finish. So like this is a very good use of your time, like dollar per hour wise. Um, and you don't even have to do it because it's automated. But I mean, you could have like you could send it out and like CC your setter on it, especially if you like go high level. That's very easy to do. There's other ways to do it as well, but very good use of their time. Uh, and then you can get a pretty nice lift on literally everything that you do. And then you can use, UTM parameters or Hyros to track it and make sure that it's working for you. So yeah, that's almost everything. Almost. Bear with me for a second here. Again, I'm not here to talk about funnels, but I kind of have to because it's part of the formula. Um, Sometimes the only way to go up is to go down. One thing I found, I learned really early on from a client that we scaled the heck out of. They were only selling high ticket on the front end. And then we were like, let's break off a little piece of that course and sell it for $10, just a little piece. Um, I guess I didn't include another slide, but basically they started running traffic and also re-emailing people who like said no on the phone. Like, hey, try this low ticket thing. It's $10. It's a little piece of our course. I think they did like 400 grand in the first month off that. Again, it's a huge, huge business. But like proportionately, if you're not like making re-offers to people who like booked a call with you, you could even automate the email and say like, hey, saw you spoke to, sales rep's name today. Um, just curious, would you be interested in maybe just like buying one little portion of that? Of the product or whatever they talked about that day, just customize it to your business. A lot of people will reply back and be like, oh yeah, I would. And then you send them the link to buy something cheaper. A week later, like that was great. I'm ready to buy the high ticket thing. Just, it's easy, right? Simple. Again, great use of your setter's time. Okay. But you can automate a lot of that. So who thinks after this they can get more bookings and sales from their email list? Just put a me or something in the chat here. Okay, perfect. Now, last thing that I want to share here. Yeah, I mean, this is like a little freebie we have. You can scan it, but the main thing I want to share, which I'll talk about here in a second, is like if you look at the formula, right? Like you can write better emails with this information. You can send more emails. You can work on your AOV. You can grow the list. You can do those things. But one thing that's very difficult that confuses people the most out of all these is usually deliverability, right? Because it's very confusing, ultimately. And we actually created a tool that's very, very easy and simple for deliverability, especially with promo tab problems. And it automatically moves your emails into the primary inbox. So if you want, I'm going to give a little demo here about how that works. So for example, um, I've got my email right here loaded up inside of Go High Level. This is just an example email. Um, I mean, it's promoting, my product, but it shows I drink my own juice, right? So and this is what you should do, by the way, every single time before you send a marketing email. This is like what I was talking about earlier. So I have my email right here, and I'm gonna send this email to one of my Gmail accounts that's just for testing. So it's not my personal inbox. So I'm gonna send the test email. So the email is sent. Okay. Now here I am. Hold on a second here. I think I set it to the wrong one. Okay, so this one I hit primary in because that inbox I open a lot of emails in. So let me send it to this one over here where I don't engage quite as much. Okay, so there you can see my emails landing in the promotions tab. Oh no, right? Like, how do I fix that? And by the way, just for example, too, the subject line is big sale today, 50% off, just to show you that this email is very, very promotional. Okay. So we have this cool little Chrome extension here. You click a button. After you click the button, you hit save, and then you can send the exact same email right here. Same subject line, same inbox that we're sending it to. Boom, right there in the primary inbox. Didn't have to do a thing. The email is the exact same, and it has the salesy subject line, and it still hit the main inbox. So with that being said, and check this out too, if I go here and I uncheck this box and I save it, then what that's going to do as well, it's going to put it right back where it was. There. So this little tool right here can literally increase your open rates, your click rates, etc. by, that's not my email. This is my email right here. So see, when you add it, you hit primary. If you remove it, you hit promotions. This little tool right here gets you into this inbox, which generally has about 10 percentage points higher open rates than over here. So for example, if you're landing over here, or if you're not sure, and let's say you're getting like 20, 30% open rates, if you start landing here, you could get 30, 40, whatever. Everybody's going to be different because we're all starting at different points, right? But that is the main way that I can help. If any of you are like, this is cool. Or if you wanted us to do everything, we can do that too. But what we will offer you, let me grab the link here really quick and find the correct one, is we do risk-free trials of this exact software now. So I'm going to put this into the chat. So all you do, if I can even find the chat, there it is you click the link and you schedule a call. On the call, we test and make sure that you actually have a deliverability problem. If you don't have a problem, we still audit it and we like give you some advice and we say, hey, do this, this, and this, and you're going to be great. If you do have a problem, what you can do is you can pay a fully refundable deposit and you can try this completely risk-free. If it doesn't work for you, you get your deposit back. So that's how it works. That's all I've got. And thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much, Troy. That was really amazing. Put in the chat from 1 to 10, how much did you learn today? That was a lot of nuggets that been shared. 1, I didn't learn anything. 10, I've learned a lot. 10, 10, 11,
11. Oh,
100,000, 10,
100,000.
10, 10, 10. That was amazing. That was very, very good. It's a very good tool, guys, if you want to use it. Of course, if you have an email list. If you don't have an email list or you have a small email list, you need to focus on what you learned today about trying to collect more email lists by a couple of a strategy that Troy shared. Obviously, like yes, Troy mentioned that if you have a big email list or other people with big email lists, you guys can do a joint venture like me and Troy did last week. I think we did a joint venture and I had 400 people into my email list overnight. That was pretty amazing. And we did a presentation and then Troy did the same thing. So kind of we collaborated, right? Collaboration is the best way here. Everyone win. So definitely try, and if you have a big email list, try to contact with Troy as well. I'm pretty sure that he's open to more collaborations and JVs and you can contact with him. And obviously try the extension, try the software. That's pretty amazing. And the other thing is one thing I'm gonna do for you guys is I really like the framework, Troy, based on the entertainment, big idea, tips and sales. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a tool in the lab for you guys exactly based on that framework that writes you 23 emails that is split based on exactly 75% going to be entertainment and going big idea, the tips. And so all you need to do is use your business context, just select your business context and it will go write all of those storytelling type of the business, the entertainment for you guys, all done for your service by only one tool. So I actually tried to add it in the lab while I was in the presentation. I created the prompt, everything. It just had a bit error. So we're gonna get it fixed. It might be in the lab by the end of today. Exciting news for you all.
That's amazing. I'm honored, honestly. That's cool. That you're like, I'm gonna do this right now on the call. That's cool. You could probably also take a transcript of this after and then just put it into like GBT and say summarize the part about writing and then pop that in. And, I mean, anybody could do that, but yeah, cool.
That's very cool. So any questions? So we got another 10, 15 minutes. If you guys have any question, just unmute yourself, share your
Not so
screen.
much a question, but of
Yes.
a observation that I'm curious about this. My email list isn't very long, but I've been using Apollo within Instantly, and they just paused a campaign I'm working on right now because too many emails were bounced. So
Yeah.
they paused it. They said, think about it carefully if you want to unpause your campaign right now. So I don't know. So that was the thing. So this is really important. I know a lot of people suffer this too,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So
bounced emails.
it sounds like you're doing cold email, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so for that one, I mean, I can recommend you to a guy named AJ Casada. I don't do cold email personally, but to answer your question as best as I can, you want to keep your bounce rate below 2%. Um, so a lot of people will say, "Oh, my deliverability rate is great. It's 90%." I'm like, "Well, deliverability rate just means who didn't bounce." So if you have 10% bounces, that's 5 times too high, right? So you always want to make sure that your delivery rate is 98% or higher, which means that your bounce rate is 2% or less. So one tool that I use for that personally, there's a lot of email verification tools, but I'm typing in the chat right now. It's called Emailable. One of my friends owns it. Basically, you put in the list and it tells you who to not email because it's going to bounce. The Walmart uses this, and a whole bunch of giant companies use this, but that's what
But
I'd
it's
say
strange
for
because
that.
it came from Apollo, and so they're kind of responsible for cleaning their own list, I would assume, right?
Yeah, the reason they care is because like if they have a bunch of people that have a ton of bounces, it kind of ruins their IP addresses. So that's why they care.
Yeah. But the list came from Apollo, is my point. I'm doing it in instantly, so it's
Oh,
really
okay.
weird. So like Apollo, garbage in, garbage out. So it was like garbage coming from Apollo then.
Yeah, I can't really comment on the quality of their stuff because I don't do that, but yeah, that's why I love warm email too, because it's as
Yeah.
soon as you can build a list, even if you're starting from zero, like friends, family, social media, colleagues, like start with them,
Right.
build a list and just practice, starting
Yeah.
somewhere, do the JV swap, and all of a sudden you could have hundreds of people, thousands.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Great, great job today. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay,
Andrew, you're next.
Hi, Troy. Thank you so much. This is very helpful. My
thank
question
you.
is a follow-up on that. I was going to ask more about warming up the inbox. So I have two sets of lists, and I used to be active campaign. I'm newer in GHL, so I have about 4,000 that I bought. That's all cold leads. They're all Houston business owners, investors. And then the 1,000 ones is more my actual investors already, friends, family, as you mentioned. What will be the best way for me to warm up both, right? So that I can start really sending them the newsletter on this platform with my active campaign versus because right now I'm using another portal that's really more investments and that's where they're getting the newsletters.
Gotcha. Okay, so first things first, if you have 1,000 people that have shown interest in investing with you or have invested in the past,
Already. Yeah.
there's a lot more money in that list of 1,000 than there is in the 4,000 people who don't know you. Because people will
Yes.
come to me sometimes, they'll be like, "Hey, I have a list of 100,000." I'm like, "Did they opt in?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "If you had a list of 1,000 dedicated people, there's more money in that than the 100,000." I'm literally not joking.
Yeah.
Wow. So focus on that. And then to your point, ESPs, so email service providers, which would be like ActiveCampaign, Go High Level, MailChimp, Keep, ConvertKit, things like that. That's for warm email. And things that Pete was saying, like Apollo and Instantly, those are for cold email. So you want to separate those because you're going to
Mhm.
get very different results. The cold email list is going to be much more challenging because deliverability is like, if you thought what I was talking about earlier was hard, when it's cold email, it's so much harder because you can only send like 25 a day per inbox. And you have to have like all these inboxes. And I'd really recommend getting someone to help with that if you haven't. Again, we don't do that. I can refer you if needed, but focus on the 1,000. The bad news, for lack of a better word, is that 1,000 is relatively small, right? But the good news is you're not going to have an extensive warm-up process with that. Because if you came on, you're like, hey, I have 20,000, I would be like, okay, so on the first day, send 1,000. On the second day, as long as the open rates are good, send 2,000. Next day, 4,000. But you don't really have to do that because you have 1,000. So you can pretty much just
Right.
like you could do maybe 500 on the first day if you want, and then
Mhm.
do the rest the next day. Um, and then if you want to just kind of like safeguard the warm-up process, there's a couple of services that I like. I'm typing them in the chat.
Okay,
Uh,
thank you.
I would say Inbox Ally is a little bit better, but it's more expensive, whereas warm-up Inbox is going to be a little cheaper, but not quite as good. And what that helps you do is
Mhm.
if you're sending from a new domain, they'll do some sends as well to like inboxes that they own who are going to open and reply. So it just like keeps your warm up process a little bit safer. So you are less likely to hit spam during that. But with 1,000
Got it.
people, it's not going to be too hard.
Yeah, so the 1,000, they've already received emails from me, even an active campaign. So I guess if I switch them over to GHL, do I need to redo this process of warm up inbox, or I should be able to
So
just
what
send?
I'll say about switching from active campaign to go high level, only do it if there's like a really big reason to. Don't just switch because somebody
Well,
told
I've
you to.
switched already, like
Oh,
since I
okay.
think March of this year. Like
Gotcha.
it's already been moved.
If you're interested, we could help with that as well. Because Go High Level is cool. I really love the platform. As you saw, that's what I use. But when it comes to email, I don't want to make this too complicated right now, but I use a different SMTP, which is kind of like an
Mhm.
engine. So if you think about Go High Level, I love it. It's great. It's kind of like a Ferrari, but they give you a Honda engine. And and that's called lead connector. That's like the default email
Okay.
service. It's not very good because there's a lot of beginners that go on that use it and it kind of wrecks the IP addresses. I use one called Postmark. So I don't have to leave Go High Level, but I just remove the Honda engine, which is lead connector, and I put in the Ferrari engine, which is Postmark. And then you have to
Okay.
like, some customizations, and then things will work much better, like much better.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. And I'll be in Telluride next week,
Oh,
the whole
very
week.
cool.
So I'll be up in Colorado. I live in Houston, Texas, so can't
Oh,
wait for
nice.
the cooler weather.
Yeah. I was in Vail last weekend, so it was fun. But
Oh,
Colorado's
cool.
great if anybody wants to visit.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
okay.
you.
Yeah, no problem. Again, we can help you with the
Last question.
migration as well if you need it.
Jennifer?
Jennifer.
Hey Troy, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. I finally got some light behind me. It's so early here in Australia. I think it must be a lot lighter where Atena is in Sydney. I was just going to ask you, how on earth did you come up with the idea for this this product that you offer? I'm always fascinated with how people you've got this great product, and it's like, how on earth did that come out of your brain? How did you end up there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love those deeper questions. So the software is relatively new, but we've been solving that problem for about 5 to 6 years. So now it's easier. It used to be harder, but the way that I got into it, so a little bit more about my background is I was a failed college baseball player, and as many of you, you probably had something else going on before you got into business, and maybe it didn't work out, and then you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then you start another business. So for me,
That
that was
exact sentence.
yeah. I was running Facebook ads for clients, which is like the most common like service you can possibly do as a freelancer. And I started to notice that a couple of my clients, they wanted to cancel, and I was looking around, I was like, what's wrong? Like nothing changed, like the lead cost is still good, like what's wrong? And they didn't want to tell me. And I was like, you're going to tell me because I'm not just going to get fired and not learn anything here. And they're like, okay, fine. Our emails are going to spam. So we can't make any money off the Facebook leads we're getting. And I was like, if I can figure that out, there's a ton of people that are running ads, or even if they're not, that they just can't get customers because nobody's seeing their emails. So I like dove in, I learned everything I could, and over the course of 5, 6 years, it's gotten to this point. But it's just a big problem, and I try to solve it as simply as I can for people. And you guys know all about this because AIpreneur, right? It's like copywriting on its own is a big problem, but when you can use AI and you can help a lot of people with it, you'll do well.
And obviously you solve that problem, which is great, but then you've absolutely gone ballistic in terms of your success. How did you go from solving a problem? And lots of people solve problems, but you really solve problems. What's the difference between you and somebody else?
Honestly, I think it's kind of the contrarian approach a little bit, because the funny thing is a lot of people in the email industry, they all do the same thing. And they're all just like, oh, I'm going to update your DNS records. And like, sometimes it works, but usually you have to go deeper. So then some people, are a little better than that, and they do all the regular list hygiene things. But I was like one of the only people that was like, hey, you see that promo tab problem right there? I'm going to solve that. And like other people, what they do is they Google it and they'll say, like, is the promo tab a problem? And here's the thing. This is literally modern day propaganda, okay? You Google, is the promo tab a problem? And most of the articles are written by bloggers who are getting paid, $20, $30 to write an article. And they just look at the last article that says it's not possible. And they just put together some crappy content, throw it into an article, and say, like, oh, you can't do it, but like, here's the best practices you could use our platform, and you'll be all set. And I went against that. And I said, F that. I'm going to get people better results than that. That's trash advice because I've solved this and I know it makes a huge difference for people. So a lot of people get mad, like people that are also in the email industry, because they don't know how to solve it, or they just try to convince people that it's not a problem. And I just went completely against that. And I've just made a career off of one thing. Like spam is its own thing. People understand that's painful. You lose sales. But I just, my whole career, I've just been like, hey, you see that promo tab thing? Like, if your emails don't land there, you will make significantly more money. And just it being contrarian, honestly.
Yeah. So focus and go in the opposite direction to everybody else.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that your solution always has to be complete opposite. It just means the way you talk about it has to be the opposite.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much. That's great. Thanks for your
Maybe
presentation.
Jennifer, you can have Troy on your podcast.
I was thinking that. I was really funny you should say that.
Yeah, I was on Jennifer podcast yesterday. She's got a podcast called Unkillables
Yeah.
that she interviews successful people. Maybe I think that would be great guest certificate.
Yeah, that would be
Gotcha.
fantastic.
Thank you.
And what we do, Troy, is I wanted to give entrepreneurs the opportunity to get in the room with people they wouldn't necessarily have access to normally to help them. People who have taken what could have killed them, adversity, and it actually made them. So like when you were just saying there, you got to a point where you were about to get fired and you're like, no, man, it's not going to happen for me. And you basically took that and used it, and look at you now. Holy cow, you're in a mansion in Colorado. Like, we want some of that. I really want to show people how to do that. So what I'm looking at, putting a bank together of all this information, I'm thinking, one day there'll be somebody sitting there like you were, and they'll listen to one of the podcast episodes, and just one line, something that they hear, they'll be like, holy shit, this is going to change the trajectory of my entire life. So yeah, that'd be brilliant. Thank you.
I'll create a WhatsApp
Awesome.
group to connect you to after this call.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Troy.
I also put my email in the chat just in case. And then I put the calendar again because the last link got buried. But I do have to go here in 3 minutes at the top of the hour. So, I mean, that's pretty much all I've got unless somebody has a final question.
Thank you, Troy. Thank you so much. You can drop Troy. I was just gonna quickly share a minute about the bootcamp, guys. So we discussed the bootcamp. So Troy, thank you again for your time. I
Thanks,
really
everyone.
appreciate it. I'll talk
Okay.
to you later.
Thanks, Troy.
Bye.
Cheers. So guys, very, very quickly, I know that I can see some new members here today. So first of all, every week we have a guest speaker that usually 8 or 9 figure entrepreneur that comes. And the reason we do that is because we want you to learn from the best and also get connected with these big entrepreneurs because they're all very well connected. And it takes one connection to completely change your life. So we created this mastermind to be able for you guys to have to access to my network as well. Some of these speakers, they're charging like 10, 20 grand to be talking in a mastermind. So please try to show up. This is huge. If you guys missed the last few ones or you're just a new member, you can go to the classroom and you can go and catch up with all the recordings. And we have the guest speaker bringing from all different type of the topics, right? So the recordings, they're all, I think they're in here, replays. So if you go to here and you go to the guest speakers, right, you can see that we have guest speakers about so many different topics. And this is like basically for you guys is a library of connecting with these big people, learn from them, learning new tools and all of that. All right, so that's about it. Thank you again, everyone. We appreciate you. We pop the recording in the group as usual. And if you guys want to chat with Troy, this is your opportunity to have a one-on-one with him, to chat about your email delivery, and also maybe you can try his extension, or if you need any help with the email marketing, trying to not use a GHL, like what he mentioned is completely true. GHL that use a lead connector is not the best to use for email delivery. That's something we came to realization ourselves, and we're going to move over as well ourselves. That's something we're going to discuss on the bootcamp about all of this, like the softwares that he mentioned about the warm-up. We're going to have a presentation on Instantly as well. If you guys want to do cold outreach, you need to use Instantly. We're going to do a full presentation about how you can use Instantly and completely plan your cold outreach, right? So all of this is going to be discussed in the bootcamp, in the master classes. So it's going to be absolutely epic. I cannot wait for those 3 days. And believe me, your life's going to be different after that. This is the biggest bootcamp we ever did. And especially with the way that I structured the content is going to be absolutely insane. All right. Thanks again, everyone. And don't forget that we have the Metaverse this week. Okay. So Metaverse happening once a month. And we have the zombie theme. The theme is zombie. Let me have a look. This one. So this is something organized that by Kevin Wong. So Kevin Wong, he rented a space for AIpreneurs in Metaverse. So we have that space rented. We pay for the whole year. So every month we get together in the Metaverse. We have a fun, different theme, right? So just try to attend it. It is very fun and it's very good for the networking with other members. We usually mingle. We usually speed network it. It's a great opportunity. It's a once a month only. So put it in your calendar and try to show up. You're going to have lots of fun. All right, thanks again, and we'll see you back in the community. Cheers, bye.